Welcome back to the Sea Y'all Life.
Last week, we had part one of our time with Jeff Merrill, who is a trawler, broker, expert, and specialist. And we learned how on earth do you find your dream boat in a market like this. Today is part two with Jeff.
We spent some quality time sitting down with Jeff and just talking trawlers.
Because we love trawlers. So stay tuned in this episode to learn more about how you can find a trawler and what to look for in a trawler and just really anything you ever wanted to know about a trawler with Jeff Merrill.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Sea Y'all Life. I'm Andrea, this is Tom, and we have two pups. We're a couple of Texas transplants living the empty nest life to the fullest. For us, that's living part-time on our 44-foot DeFever trawler in San Diego. Our hope is that as you join us on our dreams and adventures, we'll inspire you to discover your own.
In our last episode, we interviewed worldwide trawler expert Jeff Merrill of JMYS, and he provided a wealth of information on how to find your dream boat in this crazy seller's market. Plus, he shared what you can be doing now to prepare while you patiently wait. This week, Jeff shares even more, including his own favorite trawler yachts and why trawlers have such a cult following. Okay, we want to get into a little trawler talk.
Okay.
What is your all-time favorite trawler and why?
Well, I could give you a lame answer like the one I was on yesterday, or the most recent one. But I think I had 14 years at Nordhavn, and Nordhavn does a fabulous job. Now, this is an ocean crossing boat that is really the nomadic adventure lifestyle. I was involved with a client who built a Nordhavn 68. And I would have to say that that is probably my favorite boat. I've done I've done bigger boats, 76, 86, smaller boats. I think the Nordhavn 68 is a real great boat that an owner-operator couple can handle.
Wow.
And you get over that, and you can handle it if you are experienced, but how much room do you really need? A 35-footer, I was the project manager, that's a great boat, but it gets small. And 40, there's one head but two they're all the different. And now, you could probably say what's your favorite of each different model. I really like the Krogan 52, the KJ Krogan 52. Love the Selene 55, 56, 57. I mean, so I love the Flemings. I think the Flemings are probably the prettiest boats. So it all depends on how you're gauging it. But the great thing is there's a lot of different really cool boats out there. You just have to kind of get on them and see what you like and what you can afford. That's one of the problems is they're not inexpensive.
Probably a good follow-up question is, I dream of owning a Nordhavn, but Andrea looks at them as being utilitarian and kind of stark and not her cup of tea. So what's your advice to talk Andrea into me owning a Nordhavn? Or us owning a Nordhavn,
Well, no, I don't. You can't talk anybody into anything. You have to come to the own realization. So it's what's the right tool for the job. And if you are going coastal, Nordhavn's probably not the right boat for you. I mean, it's great. It's solid. It's rugged. It's got all kinds of redundancy. Really overbuilt. Excellent systems. All the selections were really made for going remote, getting far away, and being able to fix things and recover. But if you're really just going to go coastal, do you need to have that tank? You don't need you could use a bike. You don't need a tank to go up and down the coast. So I think part of it is you have to define what kind of cruising you want to do and then find the right type of boat for that. But you don't know what kind of cruising you're going to want to do because you've never had a boat before. So internet, YouTube, watching all this stuff and trying to figure it out.
Sure.
I think that I mentioned it earlier, I don't know if this will end up on the tape or not, but I thought the Nordhavn 40 was about the ugliest boat I'd ever seen. I've spent a lot of time on it. It's a fantastic boat, but my initial reaction was not that great. And your reaction to Nordhavns might be too bulldoggy looking or something. Maybe it doesn't have the right, but if you want a really solid long-range boat, it's hard to beat them.
Right.
So again, it comes down to what you want and what kind of cruising you're going to do helps you find the right boat.
Yeah.
I do have to admit, I've never been aboard a Nordhavn. Yeah. I've only seen them on videos in green Naugahyde sofas and.
No, but I think it's interesting because in this modern world where we have all this internet with emails and cell phones and things, I have often met people for the first time at the survey. Mm-hmm. So we've corresponded, we've talked about things, we've written up the offer, but we actually meet in person for the first time on the survey. And a lot of people have not been on these boats before they buy them. I find that's a little bit troubling. I really think that you should get on as many boats as you can, even boats that you don't think you're going to want, just to know what your choices are. So that's where you go to boat shows, and boat shows are fine, but the big boat shows, there's not that many trawlers. Trawler Fest is fantastic. You're probably not going to see the exact boat you want there, but you can meet people who own trawlers, people who are using trawlers, different sizes of trawlers, multi-hull trawlers, fast trawlers, slow trawlers. All this different selection helps you figure out, wow, I never really would have thought that I wanted a multi-hull power boat, but maybe there's some advantages here. And each one has their own selling points that make them attractive. You have to kind of put all this into the blender and then pour out whatever you end up with once you've digested it all.
So do you currently own a boat? And if you don't, I'm curious, what kind of boats have you owned?
My wife Pam and I raced a Lido 14, which is a two-person dinghy. I grew up racing dinghies, and so I've always had sailboats. And we have, I think, 2 Naples Savage, maybe 3, that we haven't been aboard in years. And I just can't let them go because that's sort of my heritage. We did sell the Lido when we realized we weren't sailing. Back in 2011, I was the Commodore of Alamedas Bay Yacht Club, and that was kind of a downtime for the business. And Pam and I raced the Twilight Series, and we did a lot of competitive sailing. And really, that was about the last time I did a lot of active sailing. I've never had a powerboat. I've helped people buy and sell a number of powerboats. And in my position, which is really a fortunate position to have grown into, I don't really need to own a boat. I have OPT, other people's trawlers, and I am on. And I can call people up and they say, hey, why don't you come with us from here? So it's not what everybody else can do, obviously. I'm in a position where I can do that. But I love spending the time with people on their boats. And if I had my own boat, I wouldn't use it. And the worst thing for a boat is for it to not be used.
Makes sense.
Yes. So as you know, Jeff, we own a DeFever 44. Did you ever meet Arthur DeFever?
I never met Arthur DeFever, and it's too bad. There's a lot of people I've met in this boating world. Everybody knows everybody, and it's a very small, tight-knit community on the docks and in the building. So I know the guys at Krogan and Fleming and Selene and all the different people. There is some competition there, and a lot of the brokers are buying for the same people. But everybody works well together. I never met Arthur. I've met a lot of other people, and on my channel I've actually done some interviews with different people that I think are interesting in the boating world, like Bill Parlator from Passage Maker magazine. And then I have some friends who are clients bought a DeFever 44. I helped them buy it back in June in this year in Virginia. And Dwayne had met Wilson Lynn and corresponding on buying a DeFever 44. Wilson Lynn was in Southern California. I said, oh, I've always wanted to meet him. I've just never met him. So Dwayne introduced us, and I actually did a video interview with Wilson Lynn and got a lot of history on the DeFever. So yesterday we closed on a DeFever 49 up in Sacramento. It's just, I love the DeFever brand, but I wish I had met Arthur DeFever. It's just, you can't rewind the time clock.
Sure, yeah. He was one of the original designers, right, of trawlers, or took them from fishing boats to pleasure boats?
He was San Diego-based guy, so local hero, and was involved in the fishing fleet, and then started kind of making them more recreational for people, and then did his line of DeFever boats. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, as you know, we love trawlers, and so do a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Why do you think trawlers have such a cult following?
They've become a lot more mainstream. I think people want to go boating. People who have had boats, most people until 20 years ago were starting out in sailboats and then eventually succumbing to, okay, we we're tired of getting wet, cold, heeling over and changing sails. Let's get a power boat that
Let's
we
go
like.
to the dark side.
Yeah, and I think that now people who have never had a boat would not consider a sailboat because it's much more complicated. There's a lot more to learn to operate a sailboat. So the trawler is an easier way to get into the lifestyle, and it's an easier way to just try something like this that you haven't done before. Taking the sail component out of it really makes it a lot simpler. And the reality is most sailors are out there using their engines and powering around anyway.
That's true.
But and a sailboat is a fantastic thing. I grew up racing sailboats, but what I want for cruising, I would want to have a trawler. And then you get into the choice of do you want a raised pilot house or a sedan, and owner cabin forward or aft and galley up or down. But that I think the trawler is a universally appealing way to get on the water and enjoy time with family and friends and get away. Safe, reliable, diesel engines are very forgiving. So there's everything good about it. And I think the problem is there's just not that many out there, and more people are swarming into this market. So it's exciting to see that the demand and the excitement and the enthusiasm for trawlers keeps building and building.
Jeff, where can our viewers find out more about trawlers, and specifically if they want to buy one, how can they contact you or learn more about purchasing a trawler?
Well, you don't need to use me to buy a trawler. Thank you for that. I think there are a lot of really good brokers out there, and there are sellers who are doing for sale by owner. There are brokers. You have to decide what you're comfortable with. A lot of people sell their homes for sale by owner. People sell their trawlers for sale by owner. I'm going to say that using a broker is going to make it probably a more well-rounded experience and safer. If you get into a for sale by owner situation, who's going to hold the deposit, what contract you're going to use, what do you use for dispute resolution, you get to the survey, what's normal, what's not. The broker does get paid for helping to put the parties together and then keep them together and getting through the whole process. So I think what you should do is figure out what kind of boats you want, and as you're researching the boats, you'll probably see some names come up on brokers. The great thing about the internet, and I keep harping on this, but you can stay anonymous for a very long time. When I first started at Nordhavn, their email was a new thing. So people would call or write letters to find out about the boats. And we would do a lot of correspondence, a lot of mailing back and forth. They really needed to use the broker to find out about boats and to find out boats were available and what kind of boats they wanted to get. Now you fast forward 20 years later and you can learn as much as many brokers can by your researching online. But I think people get focused on studying for the right boat and don't think about the advantages that a broker might be able to offer to them. So I think you should be also considering looking at brokers as well. There's a whole discussion about who pays the commission, and that's how brokers get paid. When a boat is listed for sale, the seller agrees that they're going to carve out this much money for the commission. But the buyer is the only one who's bringing money to the table. So when you guys bought your boat, you paid this much money and the commission was included. In my view, you paid the commission. It was included in the price. So if you're paying the commission as a buyer of a boat, you can work with the listing broker who has it for sale, who was hired by the seller, or you can bring your own broker in. As long as you don't contact that listing broker, you can bring your own broker in. The two brokers will work it out. They will share the commission, and then you have somebody as an advocate on your side. And a lot of people are looking more towards that buyer's broker role, having somebody who will look out for their interests on their side. But I think it's fun. The looking for the boat is the fun part, but I think it can get a little bit daunting, and having a broker who understands this market and is really dialed into the trawler world will probably give you a better chance of finding the right boat and having a good experience with it.
So one way people can really get a good look at a lot of different kinds of trawlers, at least from afar on a video, would be to look at a channel similar to yours. You do a lot of great tours.
Thank you.
I've seen some amazing boats. How can they find you on YouTube or any other social media?
Well, my website is JMYS.com for Jeff Merrill Yacht Sales. We have a website that was really, it's trawler centric. I decided when I went on my own in 2014 that I was just going to focus on trawlers. As a licensed yacht broker, I can sell ski boats, sport fishers, I can do sailboats, but I really love the trawlers. So I wanted to make my business all about trawlers. And I was constantly telling people the same thing or being asked the same thing. So I started writing this stuff down and broke the website into a couple different sections so that anybody who was interested in trawlers could learn something from my website. And when we list a boat for sale, we like to do we call it a talk through, not a walk through, because we're talking about what's on the boat, video tour of the boat. Once the boat sells, we keep that on our channel, so people still researching that type of boat can get some information there. And we've started doing some skills, how to change a sea strainer, and then we've been doing the interviews. So it's all just a wealth of information, I believe, on the website. And then on the website, you can get to our Instagram account, Facebook. The whole social media thing was a surprise to me, and I don't really consider YouTube social media because it was something separate, but it is the biggest search engine that there is out there, and everybody uses it. So I was just lucky. My wife Pam said, hey, there's this thing called YouTube, you ought to do it, and one thing led to another. We started doing it, but I didn't know 8 years ago when I started doing it that it would be the thing that it is now. And I'm sure there's something right now that will be the thing in 8 years. This won't last forever, but right now it's really the great way to go. So JMYS.com, you can send me an email, jeff@JMYS.com, and if you're in an area where we don't cover or we can't really help you, I might be able to place you with a broker locally. I really think it's important that you consider using a broker rather than doing this on your own. You know, if I can't be the person for you, I always try to help people find somebody who can do the job for them.
So before we wrap up, I've been staring at this beautiful picture of you and Pam.
So Pam and I got married in Fiji, and we did a destination wedding before that was a thing. We got married on Leap Year's Day in 1992, February 29th. And I proposed to her underwater in Catalina.
No way.
On the 1st of April. So I thought that was the perfect day to propose, April Fool's Day, and then to get married on a day you didn't have to remember except every 4 years. It's all backfired on me. And
This tells us a lot about you.
Well, I don't do things the normal way.
I like that about
but
you.
Thanks. Yeah, so we got married in Fiji. It was great. We invited anybody who wanted to come to visit us, and we had parents come and a couple of good friends. But yeah, we had a lot of flowers and leis, and yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Awesome.
So you said you love to go on OTPs. Wait.
Yeah, other people's OPT, other people's trawlers.
Other people's trawlers.
Yeah.
Consider this an open invitation for you and Pam
that'd be fun.
to come to San Diego aboard Sea Y'all for a day on the bay. It would be a blessing to have you.
That'd be fun. I would love to do that.
Good wine, good food, good time.
Well, maybe
good
I'll
music.
bring my camera gear and I'll interview you guys. We'll reciprocate.
You've got a deal.
And you have a place to stay at the Marriott.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
we're at the
Marriott.
Marriott Marina. Well, we thank you so much for taking the time today, and what an honor it has been to interview the trawler expert of the world. You really are.
Thank you. Expert has too much baggage to it, but a specialist I'll take. And thank you. Really fun meeting you guys. I encourage everybody in the trawler thing. I think what you guys are doing great, your channel, there's a lot of other people out there doing it, and it's just building more information out there for people to find this lifestyle, because the trawler lifestyle is unbelievably cool. And let's face it, you probably don't do it in your 20s. You have to get to a certain point in your life when you have the time, the health, and the money, and you can. I had one guy contact me. He was 90 years old, and he said, "Jeff, you can take me off your mailing list." 90 years old. I should have bought that boat we talked about 15 years ago, but now I can't do it. But he said, use that when you're talking to people. If they're on the fence, should we do it? Yes. Are you going to do it right? Probably not. You're going to make mistakes. But better to have done it and have those memories than to be wondering why you didn't do it.
Great point. Even at 57, I'm saying to myself, why didn't we do this 20 years ago? I don't know if it was
you probably
financially.
couldn't have.
Yeah, we had kids and
But at 57, you've got a good 20 years plus before you're 80, and with the way we're getting with our health, I think the salt air is going to keep you fresh, nimble, and ready to go.
For sure.
Tom, you're going to be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So here's to chasing the dream now, not later.
Yes.
Thanks again, Jeff.
Great meeting you guys. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Jeff.
much for this, and thanks everybody.
See y'all soon.